Good morning. Sweet morning. Wow. Here we are. So first of all, I want to tap into just some kind of talks and health. I want to tap into health. This is going to be a page that incorporates so many different things to realize that health takes many different elements to actually achieve what you want, and that's true healing. When I'm speaking of healing, I am really distinguishing the difference between healing, kind of tying in with curing versus treating. And I first want to really mention that I am not a licensed health practitioner, and I don't believe I want to be. I think that maybe at one point there will be a calling if I find a program that kind of aligns with who I am, but Western medicine is not who I am. I do not want to go through that process. Personally, I really do believe we need to be tapping into something deeper than just needing a certification to be someone that can speak out. Yes. So what we're kind of seeing right now is we're seeing a rise of some of them. Sorry, I'm kind of watching my cats do some crazy moves right now. Is we have this kind of mentality that you have a product, here's that product, and this product is it's going to be your lifesaver, it's going to be your cure-all, and from there you don't really have to do much more besides take the product. I think that's the mentality we really have to shift away from. Just taking a product is potentially going to alleviate some certain symptoms, but I don't necessarily think we should be relying fully on that. It really taps into diet, it taps into spirituality, it taps into exercise. I ask people all the time, how much are you doing to try and get better? Because the process of healing is long. Some say that it takes almost double the amount of time to heal versus to not. Some say you'll have the most sporadic moments of healing so quickly because the body is always on your side. The body always wants to heal. So one of the biggest things that's happening is, of course, the rise of autoimmunes. I can name more people in my life right now that have them than they don't. That is crazy to be kind of seeing the rapid influx of these crazy mystery illnesses that Western medicine doesn't quite know how to handle yet, and that's pretty scary, and I think the true way to really heal is to incorporate many, many things. So as I kind of tap in, the first one I kind of want to tap into is how can we detox? What does detoxing really entail? Detoxing entails exercising. It also super entails what you eat. The foods that you're eating need to be constantly making sure they are removing toxins. So that entails processed foods are never doing that for you. Sadly, dairy is never doing that for you. A lot of the time meat and stuff like that isn't really doing that for you. Meat in one way, people feel really nourished when they eat it. I have been having that conversation a lot more often. Why do people eat meat? Because they feel nourished and they feel it gives them the power that they need without the heaviness of grains kind of being more inflammatory for a lot of people. Because I've been noticing a lot more people lately are struggling more with grains than they do with meat. First of all, both of those things, a lot of people have digestion issues. So I am not wrong, nor am I right in either of these situations. So for me personally, I struggle with digesting grains. I'm still learning which ones. For me, rice is a lot harder for me to digest than almost all other grains, versus quinoa being not so much a grain, but more very high protein. I can digest a lot more easier, and I can easily, and I personally can eat meat and feel really nourished from it, as long as I'm eating it slowly and mindfully in that kind of way, and not so much of it. But the real thing I want to incorporate here is starting to really put on this understanding that we don't need as much food as we think we need. This whole mentality of 3 meals a day, I think deeply causes us to create dis-ease. Now we're always eating, even though we're not always hungry. And even getting into a habitual zone where we are eating just because it's time to eat. is that really essential? I mean, I feel my most fueled whenever I have like a juice in the morning and then I don't eat until like 2 or 3 when I'm hungry, you know? And sometimes when I'm eating at 2 or 3 is like, again, like another banana or like a salad or even just like a pomegranate, like a soup or something, you know? But me personally, like I've been really benefiting from the simplicity of like a banana, the simplicity of like an apple. It makes the most sense for me. My body feels the most energized. I don't feel like heavy. I feel like I'm actually digesting, like my body actually feels like it's processing all the nutrients. Like I get an immediate energy burst. Yes, that does have a lot to do with the fruit sugar, but fruit sugar being very, very different than any other sugar in your body. I have noticed like this really intense fruit fear that people kind of come about all the time. You know, I tell people all the time like what I eat and why I'm like so energized and stuff like that, and people are like, well, like fruit doesn't really work for me. And I'm like, okay, like tell me why, you know? Because when I started eating fruit, like like I went through the same thing, you know? I had like my body break out more than I've ever had, you know? I had redness in me like nobody's business, you know? Constant thoughts, like I'd stay up at night, like my head was so itchy, I'd have to do like the double hand, you know? That happened, and it happened for months. I mean, that was when I was on the road, like 4 months I was on the road of like constant itching and just like being in like my car and just being like, this is crazy, you know? And just constantly waking up like, I mean, but now I'm not, is like my point. Fruit does one thing and it does it really quickly. It detoxes you. So if you have anything in your system that is needing to come out, fruit gives like that permission slip to like allow your body to be like, now. Rather, for example, if you eat something that has dairy in it and stuff, you're not going to detox. Physically, it's not going to do anything besides like make you full, you know, and like get you kind of sadly feeding almost the disease, where it's comfortable. To kind of get out of like, to get these viruses out of our system and to get like balance into our body, it requires like heavy amounts of getting stuff out. So things like juicing, eating fruit that's like raw, that is what's gonna do it. I mean, and bananas really fucked with me for a long time. Bananas for sure were one of the biggest ones that I had like a deep, also spiritual connection. Like I was always scared of bananas. So like tapping into the fact that like someone telling me that like, okay, eat a banana and like that's all you need. I was like, what? But like bananas like, bananas don't serve me. You know, like bananas aren't gonna help me, but they did. I mean, and it was like conquering that like deep fear and understanding that like what initially is happening, this reaction, is a lot of the time a deep release, a deep toxin release. So that uncomfort and that those symptoms are gonna come up like pretty strong after. Yes, so fruit, eat your fruit. So that's kind of number one, is what I want to start tapping into, is diet has 100% like to do with your detoxing, you know. And to tie into that, I mean, exercise. Like, are you sweating? I think a lot of people like exercise. They are doing yoga and stuff like that, and like, oh God, like I honor yoga. I mean, I practice. I am a practicing like yoga gal. But when I'm talking about detoxing, like I'm talking about like getting that out. And by doing that, like it requires you to be sweating. Even using like saunas and stuff like that. But for me personally, like running has been my medicine. For me, like waking up and running is the way I release so much energy that's just kind of built inside me, and so many toxins like that are just kind of sitting. So I know running is not great for you. Trust me, I've heard that like from so many people, like, but it feels good for me. It feels really good for me. Even better than hiking a lot of the time. And it's like, and I love to hike, but they bring in two different elements to my life. You know, like hiking for me is a lot more peaceful. I'm not really challenging my inner ego in a way where it's like, oh, this is so hard, like keep going. But running like pushes me, you know, like we're in the middle of the run, I'm like, do I really have to do this? And I know that's not me. It's like it's the true ego, and it's the illness in me that's like, stop, like stop running, you know, because you know what, it is losing hold. Like the disease at that point is losing hold. And that is why I'm having these thoughts that are like, stop. And it's like, my true self doesn't want to stop. It feels the best it's ever felt, you know? Same kind of thing with pushing with cold water and hot water. Whenever we use hot tubs and stuff and we get to that point where it's like, okay, like this is really hard. I mean, you're literally looking at your own ego head on and being like, do I really need to stop? Or is this like more of my pain body ego kind of telling me to stop? Which one is it? Because one of them is going to push me to allow me to heal, listening to my true self. And one of them is going to make sure that the illness like stays intact. Same thing with cold water. Like you really have that intense push where you need to get out, but do you really need to get out? Do you really need to stop running? So yes, this is a video kind of on detoxing. Yes, and the next video I kind of want to be tapping into is using like different breathing to allow detoxing to occur. But thank you for listening to my first one. I will be like incorporating products as well that work for me. But oh, my legs are asleep. But I'm not really a product gal, so I want you to know that first. When I recommend things, I really do recommend them because they really